my name is Christine and I'm from Bees Knees Art. Today I'm going to show you part 3 of making our Easter Bunny sculpture. So we're up to doing the painting and colouring our Easter Bunny sculptures today. So first up I'm going to show you the bunnies that we made. This was the first one and this was the second one. And this was the third one that I made just a couple of days ago. It's still a little bit spongy, and you can see that I've actually added a basket too, and he's got some little Easter eggs inside there which actually come out. What I thought I would do today is actually experiment with these little sculptures and see which is the best type of paint to use for them. Now I'm pretty certain that acrylic paints are going to be fine, but I did wonder about the poster paints and also watercolor paints. Now watercolor paints are traditionally used on paper, obviously, but because these are made of PVA glue, which is almost like a plastic type of substance, I don't think it's going to work on these, but let's give it a go and see whether it will or not. Because the pigment, once it dries, it may be that it actually sticks to it and gives some sort of effect. So I thought we'd give it a go today and sort of see what it's like. So I'm going to start with this one, the little one that we had, and I'm going to try out the watercolors first, and let's see how we go with that. Today I'm going to use the Derwent Academy watercolor set. It's just a student's set. I'm not sponsored by them at all. It just happens to be one of the sets that I have around. One thing I want to show you that I do before I start painting with any of my watercolors is I cut out a piece of watercolor paper and I actually paint the colors on that watercolor paper in the order that they are, so I can actually see what the colors look like if they were going to go on that paper. So that's just a handy little thing to do, just so you can sort of see what the values are like and things like that. I haven't actually done that with this one, but often what I will do is I will try and see just what type of value I can get out of each color before I get started. So that's one thing to try if you are into your watercolors. But today we're simply going to use it as a coloring tool for our bunny rabbit. So here we are ready to go. I suspect that when we go to paint our rabbit today, we don't want to be using too much water. We want to have more pigment than we want as the water, because he's not very porous, and because of the PVA glue, which when it dries it has a sort of a plasticky feel to it, I would suspect that the water's just going to run off it, which means the paint is as well. But we're going to give him a go anyway. So I'm going to use one of the darker colors. I've wet my brush and I'm just loading up the brush with that color, as you can see. And then let's try it on his foot. Not too bad. As I said, I haven't got a lot of water on here. I've just got enough to basically wake up the paint. So there's a nice little brown colour there. Again, I'm going to wet my brush. You don't want it dripping though. Pick up as much pigment as we can. And then simply paint him. So it does seem to be working. As you can see. Now that the pad there has got a little bit of water on it, I don't always need to go back and put more water on my brush. There's enough water on there at the moment to pick up the pigment. I'm going to keep on painting him. I will speed this up and we will get all the way around him. like so. Now the finish of him is not the best. It's what watercolor could do. Now what I could do with him now is I could spray him with some sort of varnish. I wouldn't paint him. I would actually have to use a varnish that's in a spray can, just so it doesn't actually move the pigment around. You'll notice I haven't painted the base. The reason why I haven't painted the base is it's just going to be sitting on surfaces, and being watercolor, it does rub off, so it could stain something, so it doesn't need to be painted. It's that type of surface that is quite smooth, and there's nothing there for it to stain. So he's okay. He's not 100%. I think maybe I would look at giving him some whiskers or something like that with him, and maybe even putting some finer details on his thing. Let's see if we can do that now. So it's not too bad. I think he could have been better. Make his nose a little bit brighter now. Doesn't want to sit on the tip though. Sometimes if you're not happy with what's done, just get the edge of your paper towel and you can pick up that colour as well. So to finish him off, I would probably just spray him with the glaze or the varnish, just to make him a little bit more shinier. It looks cute, but I'm not completely happy with the finish of the paint. So let's try something else with the next one. Hi, we're back again. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use poster paint. So it has a bit of a chalky finish to it sometimes. So that's what we're going to be using next, and we'll see what coverage we get on our Easter Bunny with that. And then the third one we'll do using the acrylic paints, which I know will work pretty well. Now one thing I did discover with my poster paints is with all the supplies that I have, which is a fair amount in my studio, I've discovered I don't have any black poster paint. So what I'm going to do instead is on our little rabbit here, instead of painting his eyes, I'm actually going to glue his eyes. So I have these little googly eye type of eyes where when you shake them they move. So I'm going to glue them on now. So on my palette I have my blue paint and my red paint and my white paint, and I'm not sure if you can see it up there. I've also got some tacky craft glue, and that's what I'm going to use to glue down his eyes. I think he's got some character. What do you think? I think he's got character. I think he does. Very cute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a go at painting our little rabbit using the poster paints. I think I'm going to paint him blue today, and he's going to have pink in his ears, on his nose. He's going to have a white belly, and he's going to have white cheeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting him. I'm going to speed up the process as I do it. Okay, so I'll see you on the other side. he's done. What do you think? So here is our little Easter bunny. It's his front, his little details. Tail is still wet, but you can see the texture that's coming through from where we were poking in the toothpick, and the paint hasn't got in there, so it's actually giving it a sort of a darker shade. And the base, again, I haven't painted. I've left that because, again, being poster paint, it can stain other surfaces, so I would actually keep that clear. And now once he's dry, the only thing I would do now is I would look at giving him getting some spray varnish and giving him a bit of a varnish, and that will actually prevent the paint from rubbing off anyway. So and then he will be finished. So I hope you enjoyed that little rabbit, and the next one we will do is the acrylic one. Hi everyone, we're back again. I'm all ready to go with our acrylic painting now. So we're going to paint the rabbit that we made last. He has now been drying for 2 days. He's still a little bit spongy on the bottom, and you can see that because I had him sitting on that green cardboard, there's a little bit of that green board that is stuck to him, which is, it's fine. There's nothing that we can really do about that. But I'm not going to paint the base of this anyway. Now the other day in the video I didn't add the little basket. I did that afterwards. So simply that's just making it using a pinch pot technique, which I can show you further in another video further on down the track. But it was simply a little pinch pot that I made, and then I made some tiny little eggs. Not sure if you can see that. That I'm going to then paint with a background color. Then once they're dry, I'm going to just use textures or gel pens or something like that, just to give them some finer decoration. But that's how I will finish those off, and then they will sit in the basket. So they will just sit in the basket like so, and then he's ready to go as an Easter decoration. So let's get started with him. So I decided that actually he's not going to be a him, he's going to be a her, because she is going to be pale pink. So I have these global paints, which I love and I cannot find at the moment. I'm hoping to find a supplier for those. So if you know where I can actually get more of the global paint, please let me know. They are the acrylics that I'm going to be using, along with some Italia paint as well. So but that is only going to be for right at the end when I'm putting some of the finer details in, and that's a Payne's grey. So today we're just using the pale pink, which is called Dawn by Global, and then we're going to use some yellow oxide. That's going to be for his basket, and we're just using the plain white acrylic, and that will be used to create tints, tones, and if we need any white. So the other thing I wanted to show you is that I'm using the magazine page today as my palette. So you can see that it just sits there, it doesn't soak in or anything like that. It's just one of those glossy pages out of a magazine, and we're going to use that today as our palette. So the brushes that I'm going to use today are also the same brushes that I used for the last 2 rabbits. So I have my little fine brush, so that one will be used for my details, and I'm just going to use the same brush that I used with the poster paints, is my Princeton Select Round number 8. So we're going to start with most of his main color, which is going to be the pale pink. So let's get started on that now. Now, because the painting of the acrylic is very, very similar to the painting of the poster paints, I'm going to speed up the process. The texture is showing up beautifully on the rabbit, as you can see here from where I made the clay. The next step is, while the pink paint is drying, I'm going to now paint the rest of the rabbit white, apart from the basket. The basket we'll leave till last. And you'll notice that where the rabbit's eyes are supposed to be, I did paint it pink. I painted it a little while ago and it's now dry, so now I can actually put in the shape of the eyes, which I'll use with the finer brush. But I want to paint his belly first, and I'm going to paint his ears and his tail. So let's see how that goes. What I'm going to do with the nose itself is I do have another pink, which is a brighter pink. So I'm going to use that for the nose. So I only need the tiniest amount, which I'm going to pop out here. And using the fine brush, I'm going to paint his nose. Just on here. Yes, that's very cute. Suits that pink. And then just down the bottom of his cheeks. Put where his mouth is. He's touch dry now on the body, so I can now paint his basket. So I'm going to do that with the yellow oxide while I'm waiting for that pink up the top to dry. And then inside we're going to paint it the yellow oxide, and around the outside as well, taking care not to get this colour on the actual rabbit. So I painted the basket and it is all done now, so I'm going to finish that off by just creating some texture lines in through here to make it look more like a basket weave. I will probably do that with painting later on. The other thing that I have done now is I have also painted in the eyes. Now, one thing I wanted to mention about the eyes, if you have a look there, you can see that he's got little white dots in his eyes. That is the reflection, and it actually just helps to build the character of your little model when you actually add those little reflection lights. Now, I haven't used black, as I mentioned. I've used Payne's Grey in the Italia range. I just find that it being the blue black, it is actually it's a little bit softer than using a stark dark black. So that's the reason why I've used Payne's Grey on this. You can see I have added his whiskers on there. He's got his eyes painted in, and I've also added the details around his feet. So I just have the basket to go now to create the basket weave. I'm going to practice that first on paper before I start painting on here. I've never done a basket weave before, so we'll need to give that a go, and it will be on the outside as well as the inside. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the little eggs just a main color, allow them to dry. They probably won't be very bright or very dark, I should say, because I want to create some finer lines over top of them. And to do that, I will use either things like Sharpies, or I'm even going to experiment with the gel pens and see whether they work or not. So what I will do is, after I have finished, I'll add a picture of him all completed. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it helps you to create some interest or a new hobby perhaps while you're at home during this COVID-19 period that we're going through and please stay home, stay safe. Okay, thanks for now. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you again soon. Bye.